Welcome to Crosstalk Solutions. My name's Chris, and this is a brand new Q&A live stream. Today is September 29th, 2017. Hard to believe that it is actually almost October. Unbelievable. So, for all the folks out there that are watching this live stream, I don't think there's anyone there yet, but when you do get there and start watching the live stream, please let me know if there's any problem with the audio. Syncing issues, or mic's too loud, or mic's too soft, anything like that. All of that helps with feedback in terms of making sure that I do the best quality live stream that I can possibly do. Okay, so looks like some people are showing up already. Irfan, welcome. Mark, Luke Roy, welcome. Hi, Chris from Pitt. Is that Pittsburgh? Sound and video is okay. Excellent. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that very much. What we're going to do today is a very simple Crosstalk Q&A live stream. So I have grabbed a number of questions from my YouTube comments, and I will go through those questions, answer them as best I can, and of course, if you guys have questions yourselves, go ahead and pop that into the chat, and I will get to those as I see them. Now, if you pop it into the chat and it goes off the top of the screen and I didn't happen to look at the chat, of course, I'm not going to probably scroll back to go see it. So you might want to pop that in there a few times if it's a question that you really want to get answered. And if it's a question that you really want to get answered, then, of course, super chats are always enabled. Super chats are how I do my beer fund. Basically, you do a super chat, I will absolutely answer every super chat that is put into this live stream. Okay, so, greetings from Sweden. Hello from the UK. Love the channel. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Looks like we've got about 46 people watching already. New Orleans. All right. I have never been to New Orleans, but I would love to go there someday. My wife is dying to go to New Orleans. I have been to Louisiana before, just not New Orleans. Will you be at Astrakhan next week? Great first question, and absolutely, I will be attending Astrakhan next week. In addition to that, I will be attending Wispapalooza in Las Vegas the following week. So I will be at Wispapalooza Wednesday evening and Thursday all day, along with Willie Howe. And then next week, I will be at Astrakhan all by my lonesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with some of these questions. Here we go. So the first question, let me pop into a different view here. There we go. Okay, so I try to make this easy to see for you guys. It might still be a little small. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. There we go. That looks a lot better. Okay, so here we go. This is on my Fingbox video. Now, the Fingbox video was really interesting in that it took off in a way that I really did not expect. I think it has over 15,000 views on it the last I looked at it, and people really seemed to enjoy that video. And it even got the attention of not only Fingbox, but I actually received a personal note on LinkedIn from the CEO of their parent company, Domots, however you say that. Anyways, he was very nice, and he wrote a big, long, basically letter to me. I mean, if it was typed out, it would probably be 2 pages long. So he took a long time to respond to me about the video, and I haven't really decided what to do there yet, but I will do a Fingbox follow-up at some point. And plus a lot of really, really good conversation in the comments of that video, which blew me away. Like I said, I always say that my audience is a lot smarter than I am, and that's just a video that absolutely proves it, because the stuff that you guys were coming up with, this is how you would block it, this is what you can do to prevent it, just really, really good information and good feedback in the comments of that video. So, from that video, here we go. So Colton Robinson 15 writes, I might have to get one of these when I go to hotel so I can get good Wi-Fi, assuming that he's going to be blocking everyone else in the hotel from their own Wi-Fi. It would also be interesting to plug one of these into an Ethernet at my university during finals week. I kid, of course, but it does open up some concerns, especially in places like hotels, where they never do anything besides the initial setup of a network, unless it's a chain, I suppose. So, really great points, and that's kind of the point that I was trying to make with that video, is that folks that are in the SMB market, right? So imagine not a chain hotel, but just an independent hotel. They have likely a very small staff of, you would imagine, 10, 15 people, maybe 20 people or something like that. They're not going to have an on-site IT person. They rely on folks like myself to consult for them. And so if someone brought a Fingbox into a hotel and they fired it up at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night and they blocked everyone's Wi-Fi except for themselves, how would they prevent that? And how would they even detect that that was happening, and how would they get help against that? And the answer is, in most cases, you're kind of just screwed. So that was the concern about the video, and this guy does bring up some, kidding points in this comment, but I did want to point that out. That's the point of the video, is that it's just a device that is a little bit dangerous security-wise. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. This is also in regards to the Fingbox. Oh, let me pull this up like so. Okay, so 5150 writes, for the price, I was really intrigued. I can't think of a single legitimate scenario for this device other than blocking intruders not sophisticated enough to mask their MAC address, which, by the way, I don't know how to mask my MAC address. I mean, I could figure it out, I'm sure, but like by default, if I go to a hotel and plug in my laptop, I'm not masking my MAC address. Okay, so is there a free software or hardware solution out there that will tell you, quote, the device at this IP has been pwned, or identify other attack vectors and would make sense for small home business? By the way, I found your channel via Lawrence Systems. So again, great question, and that's a question that even through all of the comments that were left on that video, I never really did get a good answer to. So again, if you guys have a solution, and I guess let me take that back. So there were a lot of solutions posed. There was no solution good enough for the SMB market. So a lot of people were like, well, yeah, if you have Cisco switches, you just have to enable blah, 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 and this is how you would do it. If you have Brocade switches, blah, 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 this is how you do it. So what it seems like, the ability to detect and thwart this type of attack seems to be manufacturer specific to the type of switches you have in your infrastructure, or the type of devices that you have in your infrastructure. There didn't seem to be one really good bulletproof solution. Like, I'd love to have a box like the Fingbox that you just literally plug into your network and it detects things like this and detects problems with it. So again, that's just another reason I brought this up. If you guys have answers, I never did really get a great answer to that question. I saw Hugo ask a question. Did you figure out what happened with the failed FreePBX 13 to 14 upgrade? So great question. And hey, Willie's here. Hey, Willie, how's it going? And Willie, by the way, is piling onto that. He says, just run 802.1x. Right? Okay, but again, in the enterprise, sure, that's fine, right? You'll have people hired that are experts, hopefully experts in IT, that would be able to do research and figure out how to implement something like 802.1x to thwart that type of thing. But again, going back to my scenario of a small business, they don't have the expertise, nor do they have the budget to hire someone like Willie or myself to come in and set that all up for them. Nor would they even know to ask for that, right? A lot of times, the SMB market that I'm dealing with, customers are on a shoestring budget, right? They don't have a humongous budget for IT. So they want you to come in, just get it working, and then, that's all they're going to pay you for. They're not going to pay me to sit there hourly and do everything that I can possibly think of to make their network as secure as possible. They're just not going to do that. So, and you take the number of small businesses out there that have to hire an outside IT consultant for most of their IT work, and you're going to run across a vast majority of those businesses that don't have this type of thing set up. Okay, so Hugo, back to your question. So Hugo asked, Chris, did you ever figure out what happened with the failed FreePBX 13 to 14 upgrade? So great question. Right below this desk right here, actually strapped to the underside of this desk, you can't really see it, is my phone system 60. It runs the Crosstalk PBX. And a couple of weeks ago, I had attempted to do the 13 to 14 upgrade tool. Now, you think about this from a standpoint of best practices. I was running the latest version of 13, fully updated, and all of my licenses were up to date. I'm running on certified Sangoma hardware, and I'm using mostly Sangoma phones. So as far as a best practice environment for running that upgrade, I'd say I'm about at the top of that, right? I have the best practice environment for running that upgrade. Now, I ran the upgrade, and it failed. It totally borked my server to the point where I had to reinstall from USB stick and then get everything back up to 13, the latest version of 13, and then restore from backup. Okay, so that was a huge problem. It had my phone server, my production phone server, down for a day, which is actually my fault because I should have run the upgrade on a test server first. Though, again, with these upgrades, you never know. The test server might have worked and then mine still might have failed. So the only thing that I can think of for why it failed is that it probably, let me get to this view, it probably was because this server was originally FreePBX 12, so the version 6 distribution of FreePBX, and then I upgraded it. I ran the upgrade tool and upgraded it to 13, and then I ran the upgrade tool again and upgraded it to 14, and that's when it failed, and I had to restore from backup. So I still have not had a chance or an opportunity to go back and try to figure out why it failed, or try to even try it on a test server or anything. So I have not found a good answer to that yet. If you guys have any information on upgrading to FreePBX 14, did it work for you? I'd love to hear about that. Because it did not work for me the first time I tried it. That's not to say that it won't work for you, but the nice thing about FreePBX is if you ever have a problem, you simply go to issues.freepbx.org, you can open up a ticket, and they will address your ticket. The dev team is actually really good about responding to issues and stuff like that through issues.freepbx.org. Okay, so your PCMD Super Chat, thank you very much for the $5 Super Chat, appreciate that. Could you revisit the USG now that it's listed as 2 LANs and not VoIP? Would be nice if it could be configured as 2 networks off 1 router if possible. So great question, and absolutely I do have plans to revisit the USG versus EdgeRouter video, because that's still a very popular video on the channel. People ask me about it all the time. In fact, I think one of the comments that I pulled today is even from that video. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I don't even know. Okay, so I have a USG back here. Let's go back here. Boop, nope, boop. There we go. So I have this USG right here, right there. But this one is still labeled VoIP, right? So this is one of the older models. I have not received one of the newer ones yet. But I'm very close to doing some additional videos on that device. And eventually, I will get to the point of redoing the USG versus EdgeRouter video because they've come out with vast improvements to the Unifi software since the last time that I did that video. I mean, it's probably been, I imagine, like a year and a half since I did that video now. So it's been a while. Okay, so, I was kind of waiting for one thing to come out. So I was waiting for actually 2 things, and one of them did already come out. I was waiting for the user-based radius authentication stuff to come out, which that is now out. And I was also waiting for the enhanced alerting system, which has supposedly been in the works, but I have not heard anything about that yet. So what do I mean by enhanced alerting system? Right now with Unifi, if a device goes down, you get notified. But you do not get notified when a device comes back up. Okay, so they were implementing some new notification engine that was going to allow you to granularly figure out, or select on a per device basis or a per site basis maybe, when stuff goes down you can get email, when stuff comes back up you can get an email, and I think other error and alert symptoms as well. And that has not come out yet. Yes, the FreePBX distro is CentOS. Oh, someone retracted that message. This one right here. Someone said was it responding to someone else? Well, anyways, let me get back to my other questions. Okay, so here we go. Let me go back to this view here. Okay, so next question. Here we go. All right, so Derek Jordan writes, Chris, I watched a few videos by you and I am sold. I'm ready to get started. This is on the complete Unifi setup start to finish video, by the way. I have 2 questions. I have a Norton Core router, which I've never heard of a Norton Core router. I don't know if that's the same company, Norton, that is like the virus scanning company, and they make routers too. I haven't heard of that if that's the case. I have a Norton Core router, and I know all 3 bubbles won't light up if I mix and match the infrastructure components. However, I'm curious to know if it will work at all without a USG. Also, if I add the USG, can I connect it to my Norton Core router, and will all 3 bubbles light up? So excellent questions. The answer to the first question is yes, it will work fine. You're right, all 3 bubbles won't light up. but it will work fine. So in my own infrastructure here, I'm not using that USG. I use an EdgeRouter Lite. So that would be essentially your Norton core router, right? So that has no communication with Unifi whatsoever, but it works fine. So I'm able to run Unifi. My Unifi happens to be cloud hosted in Amazon AWS. I can run Unifi, connect my devices to it. I actually have 3 devices that I use for my internal network that are connected to my Unifi. An 8-port 150-watt edge switch, Unifi switch, excuse me, a UAP-AC Pro, and then one of the smaller 60-watt switches. So I have 3 Unifi devices. I don't have a USG in place in my home network. Your second question, also, if I add the USG, can I connect it to my Norton core router, and will all 3 bubbles light up? So the USG would replace your Norton core router, right? You wouldn't want to put both of those devices in place. So traffic has to flow through the USG for it to be effective. And if you put the USG in front of your Norton core router, you're going to be creating a double NAT scenario out to the internet, which in most cases is fine, but if you're ever trying to do any voice over IP or anything that's sensitive to double NAT issues, you're just going to have all sorts of problems. So I always recommend do not run anything double NAT. Run everything in bridge mode from the ISP if possible. Okay, let's check the chat here for a second. Have you downloaded the beta version of FreePBX 18, which comes with FreePBX 14? Hugo, I have not downloaded that. That is not something I have worked with yet. Again, all this stuff is time dependent, and unfortunately I just have not had the time. I'm trying to learn and figure out how to scale the business so that I'm doing less of the actual work and focusing more on research and videos, and that is just a work in progress, right? So it's tough to scale, and so that's what the problems that I've been running into just personally as a business person and running my own business. So that's why you'll notice that videos have slowed down. Like I didn't get any videos out whatsoever last week. I got only 1 video out this week, and I'm doing this live stream, and then the next 2 weeks I'm going to be off at conferences, so who knows how many videos I'll be able to get out. But okay, Edward St. Hilaire Tavares. All right, that is some name, my friend. Is there any document to set up Unifi with a Windows DHCP server if you don't have a USG? Is there any document to set up Unifi with a Windows DHCP server if you don't have USG? Well, if you were using Windows as your DHCP server and you didn't have a USG, then there would be no DHCP coming from Unifi. Right, you would have to have the USG in order to provide DHCP to the network. Otherwise, it's just not going to do anything. So I guess that's the answer to the question is, yeah, just if Windows is the DHCP server and you don't have a USG in place, then that's it. If you have a USG in place and you're using Windows as DHCP, then you need to disable DHCP on the USG. Because Windows loves to be DHCP. Windows Active Directory loves to be DHCP. It loves to be your DNS. It loves to be your sun and your moon and everything. Okay, so Iron Mike Z, thoughts on the UAP AC SHD? My thoughts on the SHD is I don't understand what it is. And I know that's showing my own ignorance. I'm sure people are like, no, it's obvious, this is what it does. But I just don't get it. I literally was Skyping with Willie the other day. I don't know if Willie's still on here or not. He can help explain it. But I said, what the heck? I don't understand the S in the SHD. Well, like, what is it for? What does it do? I don't understand it. And he explained it to me, but I still didn't understand it. So I'm one of those guys that you could talk to me about it all day, and I don't really, I'm not necessarily going to get it until I actually sit down and play with it and make it work, right? So that's how I learn best, is by actually experimenting. It's called being a haptic learner, right? So being that I'm a haptic learner, people have explained it to me, but I still don't fully grasp it, and I probably won't until I actually have one in my hands and I can play with it. Okay, so how is Brandon doing in the land of the rising sun? Great question, Hugo. So for those of you who follow me on Twitter, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, I recommend that you do. I post a lot of updates. It's at Crosstalk SOL, like Crosstalk Solutions, or you could say Crosstalk Shit Out of Luck, whatever you want to say. Crosstalk SOL is my Twitter handle. You can go ahead and follow me there. We have a really, really good install going on right now. And it's actually not in Tokyo, Hugo. It's actually in Indonesia somewhere. But Brandon just happened to be in Tokyo because he was going that direction. So one of our WISP guys, basically our main WISP guy, Brandon, had to get out to this remote Indonesian island to do this really awesome setup. And I don't want to talk too much about the actual setup because he's going to be taking video and stuff, and I want to actually do a video on it. I don't want to spoil the surprise. But he basically took him literally 3 days to travel out to where he was going. It was like, he had to fly to LAX first, from LAX to Tokyo, Tokyo to Jakarta. I think he had like a 22-hour layover in Jakarta, and then there was like 2 or 3 more flights to get close to where he needed to go, and then it was like a 6 or 7 hour boat trip out to where he's doing the install. So he is a freaking trooper, man. Just the fact that he's willing to do that kind of travel, and he went out there to do that install, we're so happy for that, and very proud of Brandon, and hopefully you guys will be hearing a lot more about what we set up and what we did once he gets back, and I can actually do a video on it. The connection to Brandon has been incredibly spotty. I heard from him last night, and yeah, he's doing well. I think he might have to extend his trip a couple days, unfortunately, but it's already a 10-day trip, 11-day trip or something. He might have to extend it because it's just slow and go out there. But anyways, okay, so Damian Prow writes, Chris, did you see my question about UNMS? I did not. So if you write it again, I will hopefully see it. Excuse me, guys, 1 second. Drink a little bit of my coffee here. Well, yeah, Hugo, we flew international. Here, let me pop this back up. We flew international, but it was for an American company that was doing some work out there. It was just a very good opportunity for us, and I'm glad that they hired us. And yeah, it was really cool. What do you think of the unified network management system still in beta? Did you try it? They will integrate the Unifi products in 2018, as the roadmap says. I have not tried it. So I have not tried UNMS. I do not know anything about it. Again, I don't like to give opinions on things until I've actually tried them out for myself, and that is not something that I have tried. Okay, so let's move on. Let's go back to my questions here. Okay, Jarek Jordan, thank you for your question. Let's move on to this one here. Okay, KL Ta writes, can I just use the USG plus 2 access points for a basic home setup, trying to lower costs? Cloud key and switch are optional, right? Yes, you are absolutely right. So again, this is on my complete Unifi setup start to finish. You do not need the cloud key. You do not need the switch. You do, however, need a Unifi controller. Right, so you need a Unifi controller somewhere, whether that's on a Raspberry Pi or if you just install it on Windows or something like that. Okay, so you don't need the switch. You can buy the individual access points that come with the PoE injectors so that you don't need a PoE switch. You're going to be hit and miss as far as VLANs, like if you're trying to set up a guest network or something like that. It may or may not work depending on the actual switch infrastructure that you're using. But you do 100% have to have a Unifi controller somewhere. Cloud hosted, on your Windows machine, on a Unix box, on a Raspberry Pi, on a cloud key. Somewhere you have to have a Unifi controller. Now, of course, Unifi is free to download and install. You can just put it on your Windows desktop. That's totally fine. The problem with that is that when it comes time to rebuild your own computer or get a new computer, you now have to remember to back up Unifi and then reinstall and restore Unifi on the new computer. So the reason that I like a dedicated device, such as a cloud key, is for just that reason. You never really have to worry about reinstalling this thing, unless of course there's electrical problems. I have found that these are a little bit susceptible to electrical interference, but just always make sure that you've got really, really good backups, and that's not just for Unifi, that goes for pretty much anything. Is Andy going to continue with the pfSense series of videos? I'm eager for more pfSense. I would love it if Andy continued with the pfSense series because those were really great videos, and yeah, he does a good job. Now, will he continue with them? I urge him to all the time, I promise you, and it's just he's busy. So that's what it boils down to. Okay, hello from Italy. Hello, Gnome Cognome. Welcome. Okay. Let's see. Shane, first time seeing your live stream. Good videos with lots of handy information. Keep up the good work. Shane from Scotland. All right, Scotland. I'm actually, my heritage is part Scottish, so welcome to the live stream. Okay, do you know about security between UBNT devices and Unifi controller? Is the communication encrypted? I don't believe so, because the inform IP that you use to inform devices to Unifi is HTTP. So I don't believe that is encrypted communication. You know, someone might know differently, but I do not believe so. All right, let's move on to another one of my questions here. Okay. So Nick Staths writes, Chris, I am an IT professional for a manufacturing corporation, and I also do IT consulting for some small and medium businesses. I have to say I love your videos. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. They are very interesting and educational. Your videos on Astrakhan are excellent. Have you ever considered doing a video on 3CX? Now that they have a free version with 8 concurrent call paths, it's a great option for the SMB crowd. I just set up a system for our company. Also, firewalls, I saw your videos on, and then the comment got cut off. So I don't know what happened there, but I'll answer the first question. I have not considered doing videos on 3CX, and I'll tell you why. It's not because 3CX is a bad product, or that I hate 3CX, or anything like that. It's that I don't have... What's the best way to put this? So I do videos on FreePBX, and any PBX is such a vast topic that there's such a strong learning curve to figuring out any phone system that I just don't have the time to investigate and learn an alternative, right? I have worked with numerous phone systems over the year, right? Going back to when Avaya was still Lucent. I used to work on Lucent systems, NEC systems, Mitel, of course, Finality, where I used to work, right? They had their own Astros-based phone system. I'm very familiar with that one. And then now into FreePBX, and all iterations of FreePBX, starting from Astros Get Home, I have worked with. Okay, so I know FreePBX very well. I know what it can do, I know its capabilities, and there is a huge, huge difference in IT. This is not just for PBX, this is for a lot of stuff in IT. There is a huge difference between getting something working and knowing how something works, right? So I know FreePBX very, very well, and yet I still learn new stuff about FreePBX all the time. Okay, so it's just such a vast topic, and there's such a strong learning curve, or just big learning curve, to any phone system that I don't have the time or will to go into now something like 3CX, install it, start playing with it, use it with customers in production. Okay, that's a big key thing, right? Because you never really know how a product truly works until you've had it in production in multiple different production environments, and you can deal with the issues that arise from different production environments, right? So that's mostly why I will not do videos on 3CX. It's not because I don't think it's a bad product. I literally have no opinion on it because I've never played with it. I've never used it. So I just know FreePBX works very well. It does everything that I want it to. It's the best phone system I've ever worked with, okay? On top of everything else. It does everything that you want it to do, and it's a great platform. So that's why I stick with FreePBX. Plus, I just really love the corporate backing from Sangoma. I love the FreePBX developers. They're very, very helpful. I know a few of them personally, and you know, I mean, and I know them personally not just because that's not why I'm using FreePBX. I have met them over the years because of using FreePBX. So anyways, that's what I have to say about that. Okay. So Hugo writes, time permits, of course. I'll be waiting for the video on the new Unifi Security Gateway Pro 4. So again, that's just another thing where, yes, you're right, time permitting, but more importantly, I typically don't do videos on something like that, especially something that's a rather expensive piece of equipment, until I actually get it into my office. So if I actually have a customer that's purchasing one, they want me to set it up, and I have it here in the office, I'll do videos on it. Okay. Chris, are you interested in looking at the upcoming EdgeRouter 4/6 models? So much horsepower. So again, same thing. You know, if I get one in the office, anytime I have something like that in the office, I usually take the opportunity to do at least one video, if not more, on that product. That's why, you know, if you guys follow the channel, sometimes you'll see a series of videos on the same topic, you know, one after the other. It's because I just happen to have that in my office at that moment. How's the solar project going? Great question. So I just refired the solar project up 2 days ago. On Wednesday, I got it working again. I moved the solar panels, the whole setup that I had, I moved over to a sunnier part of my yard, and I hooked everything back up, and we actually have it up and running. I'll see if I can pull it up here. I don't think it's, let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. 192, 168. I have a Crosstalk NVR10 set up, running right next to me, and then we can see the live feed here. Can I pull this out of here? I can't. Oh, I don't need the audio. Let's see. Can I bring this over here? Yeah, here we go. So there we go. So now I've got it in my garden area, right? So we have the, this is my greenhouse, a couple garden things there. Can I make this bigger? Yeah, there we go. Oh, you guys aren't seeing this. Hang on. Boop. Oh, gosh. I got to get up on OBS one more time. Here we go. Okay, there we go. So there we go. There's the new setup. That is live view of my front yard. And it's interesting because... sorry, I'm watching the stream catch up with where I was switching the view around. So this is the live stream of my front yard. You can actually see the solar panels. Oh, hang on, let me bring this up over here. You can actually see the solar panels. They're right over here, and that's about the sunniest area of my yard. Of course, today is a super overcast rainy day, and actually yesterday was a super overcast rainy day as well. So we will see how that works, being that it's been overcast for 2 days, but I have not only the nanostation up, but I have it powering the camera, and we will see how long this lasts. It's been about just about 48 hours now since I put this back up. And so eventually I will do another follow-up video on it. It might be a while, though, because it might be a while till I do a follow-up, because I want to see how long this lasts. And then I also, if it doesn't last that long, I'm going to replace it with a Renology 100-watt, or Renogy, whatever you say, however you say that, 100-watt solar panel. Okay, let's get rid of that. But one of the other things that I'm doing, I'll give you guys a little sneak peek here. Let's make sure there's nothing bad on this screen here. Nope, I don't think there is. I'm also investigating LibreNMS. Okay, so I did, again, on Twitter, I asked you guys what network management solution would you like to see? And the overwhelming response was LibreNMS. So I have set that up. I'm working with it. I'm playing with it. I'm trying to get it all working and figured out. And so far, it's great. So far, I like it. There's a couple things that I would like to see more of. And but you guys can kind of get a sneak peek. I am doing some work with LibreNMS. Okay, let me get back to my live chat here. Regarding the solar, why don't you use the smaller mesh station? Well, because I'm not really, because the mesh station doesn't have a PoE pass-through to power my camera. Okay, faxing for PBExact. Any suggestions? Never had a lot of luck faxing over VoIP. You and everyone else, William Harrison. No one has good luck faxing over VoIP, because faxing over VoIP is absolutely terrible. So if you have the Fax Pro module, it works a little bit better. It works okay, but the problem with faxing over VoIP is the transition from you know, IP to an analog or digital signal, right? So that transition is fine, and your faxing may work fine most of the time, but you're also dependent on the receiving end if you're faxing out, or you know, if someone's faxing to you. If someone has a really old fax machine that just has trouble communicating with FreePBX as a fax engine, there's literally nothing you can do about that. So I always try to just tell my customers, if you're going to do faxing, take a POTS line and plug it directly into a fax machine, or use something like eFax. Okay. Let us move on to more questions here. Whoop, there we go. One of these days I will actually learn OBS, I swear to God. Okay, so let's see. Next question. Chris, can you do a tutorial on how to insert your own HTTPS certificate into Unifi/Unifi video? Really great question, and absolutely I am planning on doing a video on that. However, Willie, I don't know if Willie's still here, but Willie just recently did his own video on how to do a secure certificate in Windows. Right, so if you have Unifi on Windows, you can watch Willie's video. It shows you how to do that. As for how to do it on, the Cloud Key or on a Ubuntu-based Unifi or Unifi video, that's something that I would like to do a video on, and I just have not gotten around to it yet. So I would love to. Thank you, Jelly Peters. Don't know how do you pronounce that. Okay, next question. James McLaughlin writes, it was great to find out now that I just purchased a client, a USG, not the EdgeRouter. That really sucks. So, James, here's... Don't feel bad that you bought a USG versus an EdgeRouter, right? So this, again, goes back to my USG versus EdgeRouter video, where the time, a year and a half ago, when I recorded that video, the EdgeRouter, in my opinion, was far superior to the USG. That has changed, okay? So the USG, in many cases, is great now, right? They've made a lot of improvements to the USG, even improvements that I have even yet to do videos on, such as the radius-based user authentication for, remote VPN users and stuff. Okay, so the USG is fine, and as long as your client has, unless they have, like, some crazy, like, I don't even know. There are things that the EdgeRouter can do that the USG can't, but it's rare that you're going to run into that stuff in a standard small business environment or even an SMB environment. Okay, so don't worry about it. Your client will be perfectly fine on the USG, and you, as their IT guy, will be able to administer that USG remotely with Unifi, and all will be well. Okay, next question. This is the last question that I had written down. This is back on the Fingbox as well. Taylor Dunn asks, is it possible to add a network bridge to this so that it can get on a Wi-Fi network? Really, really great question. And the answer is, I think you can. I actually meant to try this, but I currently have the only two nanostations that I have right now are in use as that solar-powered Wi-Fi wireless bridge. So I have not been able to test that yet, but I would love to test that. So theoretically, I don't know what I did with my Fingbox, actually. What did I do with that thing? Anyways, theoretically, you should be able to... Like, I did a video called... What was the video called? It was called How to Steal Your Neighbor's Wi-Fi. And in that video, I took a nanostation and I connected it to an open Wi-Fi network. This would work the same if you have a password-protective Wi-Fi network, but you actually know the password. So I connected it to an open Wi-Fi network, and then I made it a router and then routed it through traffic so that basically you could surf the internet using someone else's Wi-Fi by utilizing a nanostation. So the answer is, I think you could do it. So if you took a nanostation and did the same thing, where you connected it to a Wi-Fi network and then you didn't make it a router, but you basically just bridged through that network to the Fingbox, theoretically the Fingbox should be able to get a DHCP and IP address on that network, and it should work the same as it would if you were plugging it directly in with Ethernet. So the answer to that question is, I think you can do this. I would love to try it. I've thought about how I would do it. I just not had a chance to test it yet. So yes. Okay, so Taylor Dunn, thank you for the question. I appreciate that. And that's all I had for questions, guys. So if you have questions, I will now pop into chat and answer what questions I can. Andrew Wilkins, two $2 super chats in a row. Thank you very much. Would you consider doing a USG with failover solution? Doing a video on USG with failover solutions. So I'm not sure what type of... Are you talking about like a dual WAN USG failover type video? Because if that's the case, then yeah, I would certainly consider that. I know that the VoIP port was able to be used as a second WAN port, though I've never set it up that way. I don't know exactly how it works. And I don't know if it's like a load balance scenario or if it's strictly a failover scenario. I've never played with that aspect because I only have a single USG and I only have a single internet connection. So I've never really been able to get that sorted out. I actually had a I had a company called Wave Broadband. So right in my area, I only have Charter Spectrum. I also have CenturyLink DSL, but no one wants DSL. So I have Charter Spectrum for high-speed internet. I have like a 60 by 6 connection. And this new company, Wave Broadband, came out into my area. And they are utilizing, I think, all the same fiber that Charter uses, but they were able to provide up to 200 megabits of download, and I think they were still only like 10 megabits up. But I was like, 200 megabits download, that's awesome. I absolutely want to do that. And so I called them up. They actually came out, and I told them, I don't want to replace Charter. I want a second internet connection in this house. And they said, cool, no problem. They even took spray paint, and they drew lines across my lawn where they were going to run the wires, and, they'd have to trench up my lawn to put in a second line and all this sort of stuff. It was going to be awesome. And then I was talking to the business people there, the business, they were trying to sell me the service, and it was going to be like $200 a month for the 200 megabit internet. And I'm looking at the residential side, the 200 megabit internet was like $99 a month. So I'm like, well, I work from home. Why don't I just sign up with the residential? Can I just sign up with the residential instead of the business and save myself $100 a month? And the business people were like, yeah, absolutely. I'll get you in touch with the residential side. So long story short, I've contacted them numerous times, 3 or 4 times, sent in the email forms. I've called them, and I have never been able to actually have anyone talk to me about installing a residential second internet connection. So I'm so upset about that because, like, don't you want my business? Like, I'm calling you, I'm begging you to put in a second internet connection in my house, and they won't even respond to me. So, yeah, Wave Broadband is blowing it. Okay, let's see. Christian S. Why do I have poor performance on my 2.4 gigahertz when using the internet, but on LAN only is fine? And no, the internet is the problem. I guess isn't the problem. This happens with UAP AC. So, I mean, the answer to that seems pretty clear. You're probably on a very overutilized 2.4 gigahertz channel. Run some spectrum tools, right, and figure out what... there's a tool called Wi-Fi Analyzer you can get on Android or iOS that will show you the different, 2.4 or 5 gigahertz spectrums, right? And it shows you what devices are on what spectrums, like when you use it in a certain area. So if you get that device, what you'll probably see is a whole bunch of neighboring access points on that same channel or some sort of channel interference. So what you need to do is move it to a channel that's more clear, and you should have a much better what's it called? Bandwidth. Okay, so Hugo, Chris, I want to personally thank you for the video on the ETHSP. Boy, I got a lot of shit for that video. It saved my dad's company a ton of money worth of Ubiquiti equipment. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely, man. So I did get a ton of shit on that video because people did not really understand. People did not really understand that when I was setting it up outside, I was showing you how it should be set up, but I wasn't doing a best practice setup, right? So I was using regular, non-outdoor rated cable. I caught a lot of shit for that. I was installing it just onto a metal pole that wasn't really grounded. It was just kind of in the ground. And so I got a lot of shit for that too. So people, everyone comes out to give you crap on YouTube, and I got a lot of heat for that video. But I'm glad that you got something out of it. I absolutely think that the ETHSP is a very good device if you have it properly grounded. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But I think I sort of, it was my fault because I failed to explain well enough on the video that this is how you would do it, but what I'm actually installing is not the ideal situation because this is not a properly grounded pole. I'm not using properly, rated outdoor cable. I didn't explain any of that in the video, and so people jump all over you for that sort of stuff. Planning any more edge switch videos that utilize some of the advanced features? Maybe. Maybe. Again, all of my videos are sort of, as I run across things that I think are interesting, I will do videos on them. I do have a list of videos upcoming. Let's see, where is that view? You can kind of see it back here. Here's my sort of list of videos that I have on deck that I would like to do. It's right now, it says FreePBX 14 made easy, and that is easier said than done to do that series because that's about a 20-part series. LibreNMS, Solar Part 3, USG VPN, USG Radius, and what's new in Unifi Video 3.8. So those are the videos that I have on deck, or that I'm thinking about doing, and yeah, so that's that. Unifi in-wall performance in hotels. Great question. Again, Unifi in-wall, I would do a video on the Unifi in-wall if I had one. I just don't have one. I don't have any customers that have a need for one, so I have not had one in my office, therefore I have not done a video on it. Could LibreNMS be used for a small Wi-Fi internet service company? I'm sure it could, but there are probably better options. If you have a WISP, there are better options than LibreNMS for managing and checking the link status of your wireless ISP, right? I know that our WISP guy, Brandon, does, what's the software that he uses? I forget the name of it. I always forget the name of it. It's a company that's based out of Portland, but I don't remember what the name is, and he swears by that. It does all of the, you get a map of your wireless ISP, you can see all of your links, you can log into your links remotely, it shows you the up-down status. It does billing for your customers. It's like a whole wireless ISP package. And yeah. Okay, how to show advertisement on Wi-Fi. After watching, I think it's my client, provide internet for 60 minutes. Thanks again, advertisement, please reply. So, I don't know how you do that. I mean, you probably have to have a... So I get what you're asking. Basically, you want to say, I want a captive portal that when someone connects to the captive portal, they have to watch an ad, and then once they watch an ad, they get 60 minutes of internet. And then after that 60 minutes expires, they have to watch another ad to get another 60 minutes or something like that, right? So that's the type of thing that I mean, I don't know. I've never had to set that up, so I've never really researched it. There are probably captive portal solutions out there that will do that, but I don't know of one offhand. Okay. How many users do you plan on using with your FreePBX box? Well, not many. I'm a small company, so probably 5 or 6. I have a ton of phones on the box just because I test phones all the time. You can guys, there's phones all behind me here, yeah. Chris, in your opinion, do you think UTMs are really worth it? Hi from Malta. UTM, I'm drawing a blank on what a UTM is. That just means that I probably don't deal with UTMs on a regular basis, or I don't know, or I think of it as something else. Christian S. writes, I made test from Wi-Fi to LAN and the speed... Oh, this is going back to your thing. I made a test from Wi-Fi to LAN, but when not doing it... So again, Christian, it's one of those things that I don't know what to tell you, man. I gave you what I thought might be the answer. If I can't dig into your specific situation on a live stream, right? So we do consulting for that type of stuff. Crosstalksolutions.com. You want to check out our consulting. That's best I can give you. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. Universal threat management. So basically, like intrusion detection, malware, like corporate or system-wide malware, stuff that like who's that company that does that, kind of specializes in that stuff? I'm drawing a blank. I know one of the vice presidents there. They used to have a. Damn it, that's gonna bug me. Who's like the big player in that industry? I'm messing with my chat window. I shouldn't do that. Anyways, Untangle. Yeah, Untangle. Again, it's one of those things where if I run across it, I don't do a lot of... I haven't looked into threat management in a long time. Most of the stuff that we set up is just strictly firewall, and not a lot of, like, corporate... I've got a ton of users that I need to, lock down. Most of our business is in the SMB, and they really don't get up to that level. Barracuda, that's who I was thinking of. Barracuda does a lot of that sort of threat stuff. But yeah, Sonic Wall, and honestly, the Sonic Wall stuff has a lot of that built in. WatchGuard certainly. I mean, my thoughts are that it's probably a good idea to implement if you have that capability. I really wish that Ubiquiti would come out with a solution for that. Right? I'd like to see Ubiquiti's take on it. Okay, so let's see. Dave McClellan, scroll up a little, please. Any thoughts on my question? Well, write your question again, man. And if I get to it, I get to it. Let's see. Sophos, Sonic Wall, WatchGuard, etc. I'll play in the UTM market. Yeah, so a lot of times with those UTMs, it's going to be a license thing where if you have that firewall, you will separately have to pay for a license for either, you know, corporate-wide virus protection, malware scanning, UTM, whatever. And I'm not too familiar with that space. I haven't been a network administrator, like a day-to-day network administrator for a large organization for 15 years, right? So I used to deal with that a long time ago. I'm not as well-versed in that today. What do you use for network surveys? I really don't use, I mean, if I'm doing personally a network survey, I use something like Wi-Fi Analyzer. I just sort of walk around and just read off what it is. But I don't do official network surveys where you get a printout that shows you the signal strength, you know, per room on a floor plan of the building type of thing. I don't have a tool for that because those tools are frickin' expensive, and so I don't usually play with them. Okay, so here's Dave's question. I haven't caught a live show in a while. Hope you're well. I am. Since I installed my Unifi network, USG, Cloud Key, ACAP, 16-port PoE switch, I've noticed my max throughput is 65 megabits. Before installing Unifi, my Netgear router's max download throughput was rated at 80 megabits. Any idea what the issue could be? So again, it's one of those things, you know, you got to sit down and start troubleshooting, right? That's the answer to that question. Is can I tell you right now a definitive answer to why you're getting 15 megabits less than you had with your Netgear firewall? I cannot, right? Because I don't know your environment. I don't know how it's set up. I don't know how it's configured. I don't know what devices you're running. I don't know what internet connection you have, right? So I cannot possibly give you an answer to that question. And so, again, you just got to sit down and start troubleshooting. What I suggest you do is try different things. Try different firewall configurations. Try a different firewall. You know, try a different access point. Maybe you have better luck with a pro access point than a light access point or something, or vice versa, right? So just try different things, and eventually you'll figure out the answer to that question. Now, the other good resource for you for something like that is the Ubiquiti forums, right? You can post what you have. This is what I'm seeing. This is why I'm not getting full speed, or this is I'm not getting full speed, whatever. Post that whole dissertation to Unifi Wiki or the Unifi forums, and there's a lot of really smart people out there that can hopefully help you out with that type of question. Okay. Here we go. So let's see. Chaz393 writes, so I have an EdgeRouter X, and it seems to crash after a week of uptime, and I have to reboot it. No access to Web GUI or WAN on latest firmware. What do you suggest to start troubleshooting? I mean, again, that's one of those things. It's. I would suggest putting in a different firewall, right? I don't like the EdgeRouter X. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion because the EdgeRouter X is like a very cost-effective firewall. I don't use it. I don't have experience with it. I had one time that I played with for a little while, and then I gave it away to a client who needed a cost-effective firewall, and I have not gone back to it. I don't like that platform, and so I stick with the EdgeRouter Lights, and I always have really good luck with the EdgeRouter Lights. I've only ever had one go bad on me. Okay, so how do you feel about the new mesh stuff? I need to make another system of probably 3 access points. Not sure to try mesh or go classic Ubi style. So I think that the biggest problem with the mesh stuff is education, right? Because there is a very specific use case for mesh that most people don't need to use it, right? So mesh is good when you have a lot of access points that need to be daisy chained together as opposed to each plugged into the LAN individually, right? So most cases, when you have a home office, or a small business, you're going to be able to run wires out to your access points. If you have a football stadium or a campground, you might not be able to run wires out to your access points, and that's where a mesh network would be useful. Okay, or you look at the situation with, like, who's the guy that Ubiquiti pays to do all those videos? Troy Hunt, right? So when he did some Ubiquiti video a while back on the mesh stuff, and he had it out at his dock, right? So basically, he's got some big house somewhere, and he had a wired access point outside his house, like on his back patio or something, and then he had a mesh access point out at his dock. All right, so there's a good use case for it because he was able to utilize the features of mesh, meaning that it's essentially a repeater, right? So, but if you can run a wire, run a wire. That's what I say. Yeah, not us. Now, Ubiquiti does not pay either Willie or myself for videos. That's not, well, I shouldn't say they don't pay us to do videos. Ubiquiti does send a lot of business our way, so their support team uses our videos for their customers. So if you call into Ubiquiti support and you say, I'm having such a problem with my EdgeRouter, and if either Willie or myself or anyone else has done a video that covers that solution, they refer their people to our videos, and then oftentimes those people will then come to us for further support because they see that we do that kind of support. So I shouldn't say that Ubiquiti doesn't pay us, because in a roundabout way they do, in addition to the fact that I have received free equipment from Ubiquiti before. I've received 2 t-shirts and then 1 UAP AC Lite when it was in beta, and 1 UAP AC Pro. Was it a Pro? It was either a Pro or an LR. So personally, I have received 2 access points and 2 t-shirts from Ubiquiti, so I can't say that they don't pay me. Is best mesh between Unifi M Pro that between Unifi's LR APs? I'm not sure the answer to that question. If you're going to go mesh, go all mesh, right? Get a UAP M Pro and then use the smaller ones for your mesh access points out in the world. Go watch my mesh video. Chris, should I get USG even if I have router from my ISP? Well, again, that's totally up to you. If you do have a modem/router from your ISP, you can bet that it's absolutely the cheapest piece of shit they could have possibly given you. Okay, so it's, in my opinion, it's best to not use what they give you. Just put it in bridge mode and run your WAN IP address on the WAN interface of your internal firewall, whether that's going to be a USG or an EdgeRouter or any other firewall that's out there. Christian, I wrote to you. I hope you can look into this. So, Christian, I don't want you to get your hopes up. I will tell you right now that if you were looking for free support and you wrote an email to me looking for support that's free, I will not respond to you. Unfortunately, I just don't have the bandwidth to respond to everyone that writes to me. No joke, guys. My phone rings off the hook. I mostly keep it on Do Not Disturb, and I delete probably a dozen or more emails a day that I don't even read. I kind of just delete because I can tell that it's someone just asking for advice. It pains me to do that. I don't do that easily, right? It's just the volume of requests for free troubleshooting and free advice that I get is so big that I can't possibly respond to everyone. I used to when I was, a small channel with 2,000 subscribers, but now I get so much traffic, I literally just can't. So I apologize to everyone that's watching this. If I ever deleted your email or didn't respond to you, your email or your voicemail, it's literally just because I can't possibly respond to everyone. And so, yes. So there you go. Someone will give CCTV networking and tech support will give you free tech support. There you go. Okay. And also, guys, I don't work internationally. So if you are international, I will also delete it right off the bat. Again, people ask me, and actually I've had people literally get pissed off at me when I tell them, I'm sorry, I don't work with international customers. I work with US-based customers. But there's a couple of very good reasons for that. The reasons being that, number one, if I work with an international customer. So the way that I work is I typically work hourly, right? And I say me, but it's mostly my subcontractors, right, who I have to pay. If we do work for an international customer, we do 4 or 5 hours worth of work, and then we send them a bill, okay, for those 4 or 5 hours. If an international customer does not pay that bill, I have zero recourse to collect that money, and therefore the subcontractor of mine that did the work doesn't get paid. Okay, so that's why I can't work with international customers. It's not because we don't want to or the time zone screwy or anything like that. It's just literally a logistics thing. So on top of the fact that we don't have any way to recover money from other countries. I'm running a business here, guys, right? We don't. We have enough interest in our work from United States-based customers that it keeps us super busy already. So it's kind of just something that I had to do, was just lock it down. And again, I'm so sorry for anyone that gets offended by that, or doesn't understand that for whatever reason. But yeah, that's the way it is, and I'm very sorry about that. Guys, if you join Ubiquiti Discord or Home Lab or similar ones, plenty of people willing to help for free. Yeah, great advice, Cody Ray. So there are Discord channels. I know that someone was posting on Reddit about a very specific Ubiquiti Discord channel a while back. I saw that. I'm not on Discord myself, but that is something that is available for you. There are a lot of free support avenues available to you. Okay. Does this allow... Oh, someone's asking someone else a question. Okay, so Crosstalk Solutions from Luke Bem. We should shed some light on the brain damage we get in the IT business. Maybe we can get Jennifer Aniston to do a commercial and raise some money for our cause. I'm not sure what you mean. What brain damage do we get in the IT business? You'll have to expand on that, because I don't... I've been in IT for... So I'm turning 41 next week, and I've been a professional IT person since I was 19. Granted, when I was 19, I was doing desktop support, installing Windows and virus scanners, but I was being paid to do IT work. So in that time, 22 years of IT now, I don't feel like I've gotten brain damage. I hopefully have just improved, as I am always trying to improve. Have I ever tried Peplink? No, I have not. Crosstalk Solutions, you are mentioned on the Ubiquiti Discord, both in chat and in their YouTuber list. Oh, very nice. Well, thank you. Cody, do you run the Ubiquiti Discord? I know that someone that runs that Discord or started that Discord for Ubiquiti stuff was trying to contact me, or has been on live streams or something in the past. Okay, well... Hi, Chris. How do you set up IVR survey in FreePBX? Like, for example, at the end of the call, rate us 1 to 5. 5 is the highest. I hope you can do video for IVR survey. So, IVR survey is typically going to be... So I've done IVR survey applications in the past. I've also done contests. I did a contest on a live stream a while ago where I had people call into an IVR and answer questions. But if you wanted to actually do a survey where you're grabbing the results of the survey and like putting them out into a MySQL database or something so that you can get some good data off of that survey, that would have to be a custom application. Now, I say that it's a custom application, but it's actually a very trivial custom application, right? So it's basically like, send caller to this asterisk context, play greeting 1, right? And then prompt for, listen for DTMF tones. When they press a DTMF tone, log that to a MySQL database, and then move on to greeting 2. Greeting 2 would be the second question. Listen for DTMF tone, log that to the database. So it's a very trivial asterisk thing to do. I don't personally know how to do it, but I know who I would hire to do it, because I have guys for that kind of stuff. So I hope that answers your question. And guys, I want to remind you again, I will do my best to catch the questions as they scroll by the screen here. But if you are absolutely looking to have your question answered and you want a guaranteed answer from me on this live stream, which by the way, I will live stream probably till about 1 p.m. Pacific, so about another 45 minutes. If you want a guaranteed answer, super chats are turned on. Hit me up with a super chat. The more money you give me, the more time I will spend on your question. No, I'm just kidding. I will answer your question as best as I can, regardless of the super chat amount. So, John writes, Chris or Willie, if creating a site-to-site VPN with USGs and OpenVPN, does this allow one of the USGs to work from behind another router? I wouldn't do that because it's not really best practice to run it that way. You would want both of your USGs to have the WAN IP address of the internet connection that they are responsible for in order to get that to work most seamlessly. However, you probably could do it with port forwarding from the first router to the second, and you'd probably have to have IPsec pass-through turned on as well. Again, I don't know. I've never tried that. I wouldn't personally run it that way. I would make sure that the WAN IP lives on the USG itself. Damian Prow, how many employees do you have at your company? So I have one employee at my company, and that is me. However, I do work with 7 subcontractors that are experts in either FreePBX or wireless ISP stuff or Ubiquiti, Unifi stuff. So 7 subcontractors, and Willie too. I pass Willie some work from time to time. And Willie's not officially a subcontractor of Crosstalk Solutions, but I do get him. I do toss him some leads when I'm unable to get to them. Saying congrats on getting to 41. I will forget to say happy birthday that day. Yes, thank you. I got to 41. I actually went and got my physical. I hadn't had a physical in probably 5 or 6 years. You're really supposed to have a physical every year. But I did just have a physical last week, and everything checks out. My blood work came back perfect. My blood pressure's fine, so I am a healthy 40-year-old human. So, did you hear about Ruckus Networks? I did not. Christian, what happened with Ruckus Networks? What is your plan for the next solar round? I talked about this a little bit earlier in the live stream, so apologies if any of this is redundant. But in a nutshell, I have the solar setup back up and running. I just got it back up and running 2 days ago, and so I am running. Let's see, I'll bring up my cacti graph. I showed LibreNMS earlier, but I also have cacti running. Also grabbing the SNMP information. 156, yeah. Sorry, I'm pulling this up in my second window here, guys. Give me 1 second here. Graphs, default tree, here we go. Okay, so let me pop this back up here, and let me get to this view. Here we go. So here you can see, this is the nano station that is back up and running. I turned it on the 27th, just in the afternoon. These red lines, you really can't see that. Can I zoom this in? Yeah, there we go. So these red lines here, this is the start of the day, and this is the end of the day. So you can see that this would be noon. So I got it back up and running just after noon on the 27th, and it has been running solidly ever since. When this dies, so when this finally craps out on me, and I will then decide what to do next. The next thing I will do after it dies is I will either run this same test again but turn off the camera, which is going to pull less power, and then see how long it goes, or I'm going to upgrade to a 100-watt solar panel. What does the voltage look like so far? It's the same as it was. I don't remember. What it was before. I'd have to look at my little tool that reads voltage and stuff. Okay, so Christian asks, Aruba, UBNT, Ruckus, which one is the best? That is a totally subjective question, right? So it depends on what you need, what you're trying to do, and it depends on the licensing model and your budget, right? So personally, I like to use Ubiquiti, but just like anything in IT, if you ask 5 IT guys for the answer to a question, you're going to get 6 different answers, right? So it really boils down most of the time to what devices any individual IT administrator is comfortable with. In my case, I'm comfortable with Ubiquiti. I've done a little bit of work in Ruckus, but I don't personally recommend Ruckus to my customers because I think they're super expensive. I mean, you look at a Ruckus wireless access point, they have this, I actually have a pair here. There's a 2x2 MIMO wireless bridge from Ruckus. I think it's called the P300. I've got a pair of those sitting in my office, and they are $900 each for a 2x2 MIMO wireless bridge. Okay, that same wireless bridge from Ubiquiti is $85 per unit. Okay, so yeah. Aruba I've never tried. I have seen Aruba, and I've worked with Aruba in terms of, if I go to a hotel or something and they're using Aruba, I have. But Ruckus I've also been impressed with, but I've only used it. I haven't used it too much. What FXO gateway would you recommend for FreePBX? It really depends how many ports you need. If you just need 4 ports, I usually default to the Grandstream GXW 4104, but also the Sangoma Vega series of appliances is also really great. Neither of them are easy to set up. Okay, FXO gateways, for some stupid reason, are one of the more difficult things that you're going to be doing in FreePBX. So, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. The Grandstream GX, the Sangoma, they're both about the same level of difficulty, and they both suck in terms of like frustration that it causes you trying to get them set up. So I can't really, I don't know. Higher Crosstalk solutions will set up your FXO gateway for you. Is there a simple way to implement caller name instead of caller ID on FreePBX? A name showing up on the display instead of a phone number. Well, here's the problem with that, is that the caller ID name is not something that that FreePBX is responsible for. So you can outpulse caller ID name through your trunks, but it's going to be hit and miss on whether the receiving side picks up what you give them or if they're doing lookups into a centralized caller ID database, caller ID name database. And in most cases, it's the latter. They're doing a lookup, like if you have, you know, trunks from Charter Spectrum or something, like you've got their POTS lines or their, you know, VoIP lines. They have a database that they synchronize with a, you know, sort of national database of caller ID names that, you know, they're pulling from. And so they're not going to listen to what your FreePBX tells it when a call comes into them. They're going to look it up in a database. That's why if you look at FreePBX, there are all sorts of options for gathering, like third-party options for gathering caller ID name, including OpenCNAM is probably the most popular one. But they also have caller ID Superfecta, which allows you, it's basically a service in FreePBX that allows you to connect to all sorts of different caller ID databases and even custom caller ID databases that you set up yourself. Okay. Let's see. Jose LMG writes, for a company with about 100 people, do you recommend Ubiquiti products, or should we go with something like Cisco for the network backbone? I have no problem recommending Ubiquiti products for 100 people, a 100-person company. Again, what it boils down to is, number one, how much on-site IT help do you have? Number two, how comfortable is your on-site IT help with managing the day-to-day issues with anything like a Ubiquiti switch or firewall or access point or whatever? The advantage that you get with Cisco is that there is a very strong support channel. So if you have any problem with a Cisco device and your licensing for support is current, you have someone that you can call and talk to. You do not have that with Ubiquiti, right? So you have to rely on third-party integrators such as myself, or you have to rely on the free public support forums such as Ubiquiti Forums or the Ubiquiti chat support that's embedded into Unifi. If you are uncomfortable with that, then go with a more enterprise solution like Cisco. The downside to going with a more enterprise solution like Cisco is that it's way frickin' more expensive, okay? So you're going to be paying for that. So, you know, again, it really depends on what's important to you. In my opinion, it would be better to implement a full Ubiquiti network and buy 2 of everything so that you have redundancy, right? As opposed to you know, buying Cisco and then having to pay licensing fees in perpetuity for the same equipment. Just my opinion. Everyone in IT has their own opinions. That is my own opinion. I enjoy your live streams, a meeting of the minds. I like to think so. We're going to try to do a live stream in Las Vegas at Wispapalooza when Willie and I are together. We're going to be meeting for the first time. I don't know if we'll actually do it. I cannot promise that we'll actually do it. It might be too hectic to actually sit down and get a live stream together, but we will certainly try. What is the CRM mostly used by your customers? There's all sorts of different ones. Personally, we use Sugar CRM. I think it's called Suite CRM now. SUITE CRM. But we use Sugar CRM because our CRM system has a custom application for managing FreePBX phone systems, right? So we've got hundreds of FreePBX phone systems in our CRM. And if we ever need to connect to one of them, we just tick a box in the CRM and that those FreePBX systems out there, wherever they are in the world, are checking in with our CRM about once a minute. And then if it checks in and notices that we've ticked that box that says, hey, I need to connect to you, it opens up a secure VPN tunnel from inside the customer's network out to our CRM system. And that way we're able to securely administer our customers' FreePBX systems from anywhere in the world utilizing a secure VPN CRM solution. And yes, Core, we will do a video on that. Andy actually is the one who programmed and developed that, and he already did a video on it, but it was way too long. It was like 26 minutes long, and I was like, man, it's got to be 10 minutes or less because people are going to lose interest. So he's in the process of redoing that video. But the Crosstalk CRM solution for FreePBX, we're calling it PBX Control. Was it PBX Control? I don't know. I think we're calling it PBX Control. It's a work in progress. That is a solution that we are looking to make commercial. We want to actually put that out there as a add-on package for Sweet CRM, Sugar CRM. And yes, that was the reverse SSH stuff that I talked about. That's what we use to do the reverse SSH, is that CRM stuff. Free advice just requires hugs, and you remember me when I foobar something and need a replacement. I don't know who you were talking to there. What does the outdoor mode on the newest Ubiquiti controller? I don't know. I haven't seen that. I don't know what outdoor mode is. I've never even heard of that. All right, guys. Well, if you have questions, now's the time to pop them in when it starts to slow down a little bit. How many people we got watching this live stream? Let's see here. 171 people still watching. Welcome, everybody. We've been live streaming for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and I will keep going until about the 2-hour mark, which is another... I'll go another 30 or 45 minutes here, and then I will maybe play some games for the rest of the day. I don't know. I'm trying to wrap up. I actually wrapped up a lot of stuff this week because in preparation for leaving to Wispapalooza and Astrakhan, I wanted to make sure I had as clear a plate as possible. And so I actually cleared off my plate basically like Wednesday. And so yesterday and today I've mostly been just working on projects that I want to work on and stuff like that. And that's why I'm able to do a live stream. Hi from Russia. How's it going? Quit messing with our elections. And anyway, so there was a company, I forget what company it was. It might have been Google, where they had a really cool idea where they basically let their employees do their work Monday through Thursday, and then they gave them Friday to work on whatever they wanted to work on. And so I kind of try to follow that same path. I try to leave my Fridays as clear as possible and do as little work as possible on Fridays so that I can do research and I can create videos and I can do live streams and stuff like that. So, yeah, anyways, I really like that philosophy because it sort of breaks up your work week and it helps you from going insane. Okay. So let's see. What's your opinion about pfSense? Well, I like pfSense. I don't personally have a lot of experience with it, but we have done some videos on pfSense. My guy Andy out in Texas, he is our pfSense expert, and he's done the pfSense videos that are on our channel. I'd like to do more of those as well. I hope you can play more on MikroTik. They are very good products and very cost effective. I agree with you. I only have one MikroTik firewall. I did a video on it probably 2 years ago. It's been a long time, and I never went back to it because I kind of got into Ubiquiti and I just never really looked back. And but yeah, again, it's one of those things that's time permits. You know, in order for me to learn a new technology, I mean, it's not a new technology, but it's a new device. It has a new interface. There's different buttons you can press, and MikroTik especially has a particularly large learning curve. It takes time to sit down and for me to feel comfortable enough with the product to actually release a video on it, right? So that it's not the creating of the video that takes the time, it's everything leading up to it, because I have to know what the hell I'm talking about or I get flamed to shit in YouTube. So, you know, that's just the way of that's just the name of the game. Hi from London, you are the best. Well, thank you. I have been to London. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would love to go back to London again someday. It was wonderful. I was staying in the Kensington area. Okay, sorry for insisting. Oh, someone is insisting. Sorry for insisting, but I would really like to know, is it possible to customize FreePBX interface and create a user logon to limit it to a range of extensions? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's so. First of all, yes, you can customize. You can put in your own logos. You can change the colors of the CSS and all that sort of good stuff. Let me pull up my FreePBX and I'll show you something. I always got to make sure I'm not giving out any like passwords or WAN IPs or anything. So I'm doing this in my second monitor. I'll drag it over in just a second. But I do want to show you something. All right, I think we're good. Let me go to users and user management. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to drag this over. Let me switch my OBS so that I can see. Sorry, that hardware is in your gaming PC. I don't know what you're talking about there. Okay, so let's see. This one. No, this one. There we go. Okay, so let me zoom this in a little bit so it's easier to see. Okay, so here is my FreePBX, and I went to admin and user management. Now, if I go to groups and I create a new group, right? So this is very similar to like Active Directory permissions, right? So if I create a new group in FreePBX, where do I add a group? Groups. Where do I add a group? Am I missing something? Directories? Groups. What am I missing? How come I can't add a group? Isn't there normally an add group? Well, that's embarrassing. Group priorities, settings. What is user manager? Something's goofy with this. It's not, there's no place I can actually add a group. Unless I'm missing it. Do you guys see where I can add a group? I don't. Usually there's an add group. It's like right here. Anyways, I'll just edit a group. Okay, so let's see. So here's a group that I'm going to add, right? So this group has 2 users in it. Now, if I click on this tab right here, FreePBX Administration GUI. Allow FreePBX Administration Login. Yes. Visible extension range. So if I wanted to add someone with these capabilities, I could say they only have the ability to administer extensions 200 through 250. That's their visible extension range. And then we don't want to grant full administrative rights. We just want to say that they can work with announcements, backup and restore, bulk DID, whatever. So you could select the modules, and modules are, of course, everything in these drop-down boxes. You could select the modules that this group has access to. Then you set your users that you need access to these extensions and these modules in here, and you're done. You're good to go. A really good use case for this. A really good use case for these groups is when you have someone that's doing the call recording reports. So if you go to reports, call recordings, this is a module. Let's see, 2017. So here are, calls that we've received. Let's just look at today. Oh, I've only got 2 calls today. Let's look at yesterday. Oh, these are just call recordings. Oh, I'm sorry. These are. I'm only recording my conference bridge. That's why this shows up like that. So, calls in the conference bridge. If I only wanted people to be able to log into FreePBX so that they could record or listen to call recordings, that's how I would do it. I would create a group that says call recording administrators or something, and I would only give them access to this call recording reports module, and then maybe like the dashboard or something. And then that way you can lock it down so that they can log into the FreePBX GUI, but they can't mess anything up. They can only look at call recordings. So that's how you would do that. It's a really good use case scenario for FreePBX permissions. Okay, let's go back here. Have you had your chance to get your hands on the new EdgeRouter 4.6 hardware? In fact, I haven't. In fact, I don't even know if I've seen that. Let me pull that up over here. I'm going to log in, and I'm assuming it's in the beta store, so let me pop over to the beta store. How do I log in? No, store/beta, ubnt.com/store/beta. No, I want to see the beta store. How do I log in? Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm logging into Ubiquiti. Oh, I'm logged in here. Okay. So now can I go to store/beta? http://ubnt.com/store/beta. How come I can't get to the beta store? Oh, is it products beta? Maybe I lost access to the beta store. I might have. I don't know. Let's see. Ubiquiti beta store. Beta. Oh, it's store.ubnt.com/beta. Okay, so let me log in. Signing in. Sorry, guys, I'm doing this all on my second monitor because I don't want you to see all of my stuff. And let's go to /beta. Ah, here we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what's in the beta store. This is always fun. Let me bring up my thing so I can see. Let me bring this up like so. All right, so here we go. Let me zoom in so we can see a little bit better. All right. So, Unifi Security Gateway XG, that's gnarly. USG XG8, it looks like 8 fiber ports. Oh yeah, 8 SFP plus ports. Wow. Oh my gosh, 2 hot swappable modular PSU bays. That's pretty sweet. It has 2 hot swappable bays, but you only get 1 PSU included with it, so you have to buy a redundant power supply. Bluetooth management interface. That's crazy. So I guess you can Bluetooth to it with your phone. There's a touchscreen display up front. That's pretty sweet. Rack mount managed by Unifi controller, supported by Unifi mobile app. Wow. Well, okay, someone says that price is not so sweet, but $999, dude. Imagine this as a Cisco device and how much it would cost. It would be leaps and bounds higher than $999. I promise you that. So I've seen this before. The UVC G3 Micro. That looks pretty cool. 1080 Full HD, small little camera. I'm sure it has. It's not outdoor rated. Magnetic base, wall mounts. I'm not sure how well that magnetic base works. And also, the magnetic base, it makes it seem like it would be really easy to steal because they have a magnetic base that this back part is magnetically connected to this front part so that it like swivels, so you could swivel it around, but you could just basically pop it off, I think. Yeah, like look at this. Like there's the see, it's a ball, right? So I don't know if the ball is attached to this or this. I think it's attached to the back part, but then you can just swivel it around on that ball. But like, you could just grab the front of this camera and get rid of it. You could just take it. So I imagine that you'd want to secure it pretty well. Here's the Unifi APAC SHD that people were talking about earlier. So it's basically an UAP-AC HD, but with a dedicated security radio. And again, I'm not sure what that is. I don't understand it. So, but it's $549 for this access point. I'd like to understand it. We'll see. Directional dual band antenna. Okay, so this is something for the UAP mesh wireless, the mesh access points. The smaller one, you can pop this antenna on top of your mesh AP, and then it becomes directional instead of omnidirectional. Again, I'm sure that has its own use case scenario. Nano switch. Nano switch looks pretty cool. This is an outdoor 4-port gigabit switch with PoE pass-through, powered by 24-volt passive PoE. I really wish they would start getting away from the 24-volt passive PoE, but anyways, powered by 24-volt passive PoE and provides up to 36 watt of power to 3 PoE out ports. So like, why wouldn't they make this 802.3 AF and then pass through the power? Like that would be, in my opinion, that would be better, but I'm sure they have their reasons. So for $39 though, that's pretty sweet, right? So you get like one in, you know, passive PoE in, and then 3 passive PoEs out. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here's the EdgeRouter 6-port EdgeRouter 4. $149, that's not bad. Okay. The all-new EdgeRouter 4 brings high performance at disruptive pricing to a new level. Disruptive pricing is, disruptive business model is how they tried to nail Ubiquiti with the stock stuff that guy from Citron did last week. Stupid shit. All right, so anyways, with a 50% increase in performance compared to the EdgeRouter Pro, I assume that just means a better CPU. The EdgeRouter 4 delivers the performance your network needs. Paired with our feature-rich EdgeOS, makes this a versatile tool in both carrier-grade and enterprise networks. See, the thing is, if they were truly going for carrier-grade, I imagine that it should be rack-mountable. Oh, it does have rack mount options. Rack mount options. Oh, here we go. Rack mount included in beta store purchases only. It will be sold separately in production. So it must have some like really long ears for rack mounting. Wish they had a picture of the rack. Oh, there it is. Oh, whoa! Look at that thing. Oh, the OCD in me really wishes they centered that. Rack mount, not always 19-inch? Really? I've pretty much only ever dealt with 19-inch racks. Wow, look at that thing. All right. So internal PSU. It'd be interesting to know when you pop it open if it's still running off of a USB stick or not. I would, that would be my first question. Because that's really the biggest gripe I have with the EdgeRouter, the other EdgeRouters, is that they run off a USB stick, and that USB stick is susceptible to electrical interference. All right, so let's take a look at the 6-port. Console, USB 3, and then ETH 0 through 4 with a fiber SFP. Is it SFP or SFP plus? Oh, it's just SFP. What is this? 24 or 48 volt PoE output? So the problem with this one, and I guess the problem with both of these that I would be very curious about, is like, for instance, they've got the EdgeRouter PoE today. However, there's a design flaw with the EdgeRouter PoE that if you bridge the extra ports together into a switch, you don't get full throughput that you get if you only have a single port that is not bridged or switched. So yeah, that would be my first question is, number one, is it still powered off of USB internally? And number two, if you switch and bridge those ports together, do you lose performance? It's got an external power supply. Huh. Sorry guys, I'm actually just seeing these for the first time. So notice that the other one had a Molex connector in the back, and this one has the smaller 24 volt. It's got the PSU actually external. It's on the cable, I'm sure. Interesting. All right, let's look at what else they have in here. Ether Magic. I don't like Powerline. I'm not a big fan of Powerline networking because I've never found it to work well. So I'm just going to skip over that one. These air cubes are these are for if you're running a WISP. This is what you can put in at the customer prem to terminate your. Let's see. Let's look at the back of this thing. 24 volt PoE in, WAN PoE, WAN 24 volt PoE out. Okay, so the idea here is that you can power this with, looks like a micro USB or 24 volt PoE. This becomes the router at the customer prem, and then the 24 volt PoE out is made to power a like a nano station or a power beam or some sort of device that's going to be picking up your wireless ISP signal. And then you've got a couple of extra ports as well for the LAN. So this is cool. I mean, if you're running a wireless ISP for 25 bucks, this seems like a really nice solution for customer prem. And then they have it in, you know, Wi-Fi or non-Wi-Fi mode. Let's look at the Wi-Fi one. So it's a 2x2 AC. All right. I'd be curious how powerful it is because I think this thing's really small. But this is pretty cool. Yeah, Powerline devices should be forwarded to the trash can. I'm not a fan of Powerline. I'm not. I've tried 2 different Powerline solutions. Neither of them work very well. And the problem with Powerline is that it's very dependent on the plugs that you plug them into, right? Because, for instance, if I plugged one Powerline adapter into a plug in my office and then another one in the next room over, and those are on the same circuit, then potentially it's going to work just fine, and it'll have full performance, and it's going to be great. But if I plug one into my office here, and I plug one in upstairs into a power plug that's on a different circuit, that traffic now has to go all the way through the wiring in my house out to the breaker box in my garage, and then all the way through the correct circuit to the other power line adapter. So the length that your signal has to travel can vary significantly depending on where you actually plug it in. And so, yeah, that's to me a significant problem with power line adapters, and it's also to me why they don't seem to work very well. And most people aren't just going to have them plugged in on the same circuit. So look at this. Here's a 100-watt solar panel. $1,000. $1,000 for this 100-watt solar panel. Whoo! Oh, it's got an internal battery. That's interesting. Includes 100-watt polysilicon photovoltaic module. It's got an MPPT. Looks like it has an MPPT controller built in. And it has support for a second external 24-volt battery. Switchable 24-volt 1.7 amp output, switchable PoE output. So it's got the controller and a battery built in. I want to see inside this box right here. I want to see what's in here. How come they didn't show a picture of that? But listen, if you were going to put together a 100-watt solar panel solution, you could certainly do it a lot cheaper than this. You could do it for about, I mean, what they're talking about here, you could do it for under $300. So I'm not sure what the advantage is to having this device. I mean, it has switchable PoE output, I guess, but still. Yeah, well, but yeah, Core, you could buy 10 Renogy panels, but you have to. This is a battery, a panel, and a MPPT controller plus a switch in one. But I could put together a package that does all of that for, you know, less than probably $300 or so. Interesting. Sold out though. People are buying them. Unifi switch layer 2. So this looks like a dumb Unifi switch. So if you only need a layer 2 switch in a location, that's a pretty cheap solution, I suppose. $275 for a dumb gigabit switch. Geary Realty Group. So like you, I'm a single owner starting up my company, looking at setting up a phone system and network cost-effective approach. Do I need a cloud key? What is cloud key for? Cloud key is for Unifi. So just the basics of it is that your Unifi devices connect to a Unifi controller. A Unifi controller is the software that manages your Unifi devices. You have to have a Unifi controller to run Unifi devices, and the cloud key is the Unifi controller on a stick, basically. Do you have to have it? No, you do not. You can put Unifi on Linux or Windows or a Raspberry Pi or a cloud key or whatever you want. Cloud key just makes it super convenient, and for $79, in my opinion, if you're new to it, it's a good alternative rather than spending the time and effort figuring out how to install it elsewhere. Okay, here's the Unifi application server. I've talked about that in the past. I personally don't understand why this device is necessary. It's basically just a server that has Unifi controller and Unifi video built in, right? So $1,500 price tag on that? I mean, it looks like a half mount rack mount, a half width rack mount chassis. I mean, I could build this same thing, likely a better server with potentially more redundancy for much more cost effective than this, and then just install Unifi controller and Unifi video on it. So this is something that I don't understand why. I mean, again, I guess it just boils down to convenience. You don't have to go through the trouble of sourcing a server and putting Unifi on it, and it looks pretty. But other than that, yeah, I'm not. I personally would not buy this or recommend it to my customers. All right, and then we have the NanoStation 5AC Loco. I'd love to get my hands on one of these. New antenna, improved design. Like it looks like a pill. That's pretty cool. AirOS 8.1, new user interface. Yeah, this thing looks awesome. Price is $50. Sold out. Damn it. I would buy one right now. Single network interface. So that's a cool little device. All right, well, there's a cool look at the Ubiquiti store. That killed some time. All right, so hint for a video. Change certificate from self-signed to a decent one. Yeah, no, we talked about that earlier in this live stream, Alexander. And yeah, I would like to do a video on that. If you're looking to see how Willie did it, he just put out a video that shows you how to do that same thing, but on Windows. Okay, so let's see. Nope, with 10 gig with Xeon, low power at that price, an equivalent Supermicro board costs as much as the whole UAS. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't seem, for $1,500, it doesn't seem like you get a lot of bang for your buck. Okay, so FreePBX doesn't offer any more custom branding. Well, you can replace the logo files with your own, though. So it kind of still does. Hi, Chris. I want to make my own multi-location Wi-Fi hotspots using Antimedia hotspot software, and the software can only use MikroTik or DDWRT routers. What do you use? What do you recommend I use? I don't know, man. I've never worked with Antimedia, and I know very little about MikroTik and very little about DDWRT other than just the... I probably have 2 or 3 hours into playing with DDWRT and probably maybe 10 hours in playing with MikroTik. So I can't really tell you what to use. I don't know why they would lock you into using those 2 routers, except maybe they just only work on those operating systems or something. There's Cody again, promoting the Discord. Cody, you must be the guy running the Discord, man. You've promoted it like 8 times already. So another reason to join the Discord. You get live alerts if you set it up for beta new items in stock, out of stock. Okay, so... everyone go to the Ubiquiti Discord. Cody, why don't you put the link or something to the Ubiquiti Discord so that everyone can see it. If you guys want to join that Ubiquiti Discord, please go right ahead. I will absolutely help promote it. Let's see. I'm new to all this. I work at a church that has a network and want to reply better with Wi-Fi. Oh, you want to install better Wi-Fi with guest access across 2,100 square feet. Okay. A Xeon 1521 board is $800 alone. Add 24 gigs of RAM, disks, and chassis, and you are way off the 1.5K. I don't know if you are for or against the UAS. Have you tried M5 products? What do you use? What do you know that is being ended by Ubiquiti? I mean, I know M5 is dead, so I never tried M5 products, but they put out a statement saying that they stopped development on them, and that was like a year and a half ago, maybe closer to 2 years ago. Do you know if it is possible to redirect the Unifi APs to a guest Meraki splash page? Probably. So if you go into the captive portal settings of Unifi, you have the option of just redirecting to an external portal. And I'm sure you could probably make it work. Okay, so let's see. Honestly, don't run it or work there. That stuff just sells out in like an hour. Yes. I am a pro, would buy one if the beta store was available in EU. Yeah, beta store is US only. I'm sure they have their reasons for that. They probably just, I mean, look, you saw the beta store, everything's sold out. So I assume that they just have enough demand US-based that they don't deal with international shipping. All of the stuff for Ubiquiti ships out of Utah these days. They have a distribution center in Utah. They had to move it to Utah because they vacated their office. If you read that Citron article, you realize that Ubiquiti packed up shop and disappeared overnight. They vacated their Silicon Valley office, never to be seen again. I have not tried Ether Magic. Abdul, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. Yep, Kevin retracted a comment. I didn't see what it was. Have you run any PBXs off of DigitalOcean? How is the quality? Any issues? So I have not installed PBXs on DigitalOcean. The reason that I don't do that is that you can't You have to manually install FreePBX on DigitalOcean, so you do not get the ability to utilize the FreePBX commercial modules, which in my opinion are some of the best packages. You're really shooting yourself in the foot if you don't have the access to the commercial modules. Let's just put it that way. If you have M5 dead product, I can rebirth them. Give me online access with TFTP. I don't have any dead M5s. I have a dead UVC. Just customer I replaced. Look at this thing. Look at this. It's like a dead fish. So this thing died. It was a customer. I installed this probably a year and a half ago at a customer site. It just died, and I replaced it with a UVC, the G3, I should say, and that's working much better. I haven't figured out if I am able to like recover this thing or not. When you plug it in, it gets an IP address and it responds to pings. It just never shows up in the Unifi controller, and it just shows offline. I tried to factory reset it, and it just does not seem to be working. So I was gonna try to recover this thing if I can, and then I'll just use it as a test camera. And if I can't recover it, I will likely pop it open so that I could take a look at the insides. I want to see the guts of this thing. And they're not easy to pop open, so I would literally be destroying it to do that. But if it's broken, it's broken. It's already out of warranty. How does FreePBX perform on a Raspberry Pi? It performs fine if you have a small amount of phones. You know, I would say 10 phones or less, it'll work fine on a Raspberry Pi. But again, I don't think the RasPBX has access to any of the commercial modules, so you're shooting yourself in the foot again. Really the only way to run FreePBX, guys, is use the official distro from FreePBX, because then you get all of the cool commercial modules. Do you know why a NanoStation of mine says unplugged unless you use an unmanaged switch? I do not know the answer to that question. Yeah, Core, great point. Raspberry Pi FreePBX also not good for a commercial for a production environment because Raspberry Pis are fairly susceptible to electrical problems. I had a Raspberry Pi FreePBX that blew out on me twice, where it got shut off, the power went out or something, and it completely erased the micro SD card. So I had to reinstall from scratch. That happened. The second time that happened to me, I said, "No, I'm never using this in production." Please show your customized FreePBX interface. I don't have a customized FreePBX interface. I just know that it can be done. Can I buy Ubiquiti stuff through you? Same with phone systems. So, Ubiquiti stuff, no. We don't resell Ubiquiti stuff unless we are doing the actual project for you. So if we are putting together a full Ubiquiti package of equipment, we will source it into my office or one of my guys' offices, build the whole thing for you, and then ship it out to you. But we don't just resell Ubiquiti equipment because there's literally zero margin on that. I recommend just buying from Amazon or wherever you find the best pricing. As far as the FreePBX, the Sangoma equipment, absolutely, all of that is on my website at crosstalksolutions.com, and I certainly appreciate any sales that I get. Do I have a home server room? I do not have a home server room. I just have a small rack that I have a few servers in, and it's located in this room that's behind me here. Let's see, why Sangoma doesn't offer perpetual licensing for commercial modules. Well, they used to. They changed that model. You got to understand, Kenji, that Sangoma's a business. They need to make money, right? So they used to offer perpetual licensing for their commercial modules. Then they realized that they can make a lot more money by, having people renew at 10, 15, whatever it is, 15 or 20% of the cost of the modules on an annual basis. It's just a business thing. Great to see you. Oh, thank you, Niels. Appreciate that. What's the difference between the settings in Wi-Fi channel width? HT20/HT40 and VHT20, VHT40, VHT80. It's just the amount of bandwidth that you get. So if you are on a 40, you're going to have twice the amount of bandwidth available on a 20. However, you're more susceptible. So you're more susceptible to interference because the way that they're giving you that bandwidth is they're widening the spectrum, right? So like if you think about like for instance a 2.4 gigahertz device, and you have channels 1 through 11, and channel 6 is right in the middle of that, right? If you have a wider spectrum, you're not just using channel 6, you're bleeding into the surrounding channels to get that additional bandwidth capacity. But if the additional channels around 6 are in use, or they are there's a lot of traffic on it, it may not be so effective. So basically, the smaller the number, the tighter the spectrum you're using, if that makes sense. I'm sure there's a lot better terminology than I just used, but that's essentially what it is. 25 years is pretty good. Normally one PBX has a lifespan 10 years. But keep in mind also that your licenses, even if you only go with one PBX for 10 years, your licenses they stick to your deployment ID. So you rebuild the system on keep the same deployment ID, your license transfers to the new system. It's one of the reasons that I love FreePBX, right? So I was in the world of Avaya and Lucent and Mitel and NECs, where when your PBX dies, when it's time for a new PBX, you have to buy an entirely new proprietary PBX, and you're going to spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. Right? Whereas FreePBX, you purchase your licensing, you purchase the software. If you need to replace the server, you simply back up, replace the server, and restore. And then you're back onto a new server. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why FreePBX is so great. What do you think about Cisco IP phones? What I say about Cisco IP phones is that they are terribly difficult to configure, but at least they're really expensive. I got my first G3 camera in. I'm finding things super flaky with my NVR install. Have you found Unifi support helpful? I very rarely use Unifi support. I use Unifi support for RMAs, and that's literally about it. I've done maybe 5 RMAs with them over the past couple years. I don't lean on Ubiquiti for support, as you shouldn't. If you need to lean on a company for support, you need to buy a product from a company that has better support than Ubiquiti. Yes, I have a lot of experience with PBExact. PBExact is it's literally FreePBX with a different licensing model. How to get hidden frequencies in Ubiquiti AirMax devices. Tell me the settings. I did a video called, if I'm not mistaken, it was the point to multi-point part 2 video, where I had Brandon, my WISP guy, on Skype, and we talked about a lot of that stuff. And in that video, somewhere, he talks about how to enable the hidden channels in AirMax devices. Have you ever used 3CX phone system? Well, I covered that question earlier, so after this live stream, go back and you can watch the answer to that question. What do you think about horn antenna Ubiquiti? I think it's fine. I think they kind of ripped off that design from RF Elements, but whatever, it works. Do you use MikroTik products? I really don't. Nope. I have, but I don't typically. I don't recommend them to customers just because I'm not that familiar with them. All right, is the paid support for Ubiquiti any good? I don't know, I've never used it. Have you ever set up stable SNG7 FreePBX 64-bit? I have one time. One time I installed FreePBX 14. It was in the early beta, maybe it was alpha stages, and it worked fine, but then I had to move on, and so I have not gone back to it yet. I will, though. Any comments on the Amplify HD? Looking this for a home 3-level, not Ethernet cabling option. You can go watch my video. I did 2 videos on Amplify HD about a year ago. And I personally was not that impressed with the device. But it's so hard to qualify that because it didn't work very well in the environment that I set it up in my house. Okay, and plus, they try to make it as easy as possible for users so that it was frustrating for me, being someone who knows a decent amount about Wi-Fi and networks and, you know, networking in general. The way that they locked it down was frustrating to me. I much prefer the more enterprise solutions, even for home. How is a migration from PBExec to FreePBX? Is that something Crosstalk does? I wouldn't migrate from PBExec to FreePBX. I don't know why you would. If you already have PBExec, why would you want to migrate to FreePBX? It's literally the same product. You would just lose all of your PBExec licensing. So it doesn't seem like that would be a good idea. Have you ever used Wazo in FreePBX? I don't know what Wazo is, so no, I have not. Do you use any Ubiquiti tools to plan deployments? Yeah, we use the online what's it called? They have a tool for estimating links for wireless bridges. We use that quite often, but mostly when we're doing Ubiquiti deployments, especially wireless ISP deployments, we just use like Google Earth and we map it out that way. What do I think about Avaya phone systems? I think that Avaya phone systems are ridiculously proprietary and overpriced, and I think we're going to see Avaya go bye-bye in the next, probably decade. Have you seen or experienced the issues with many people are having with the Unifi Video 8.3 upgrade? Cameras won't register to NVR, cannot view stream, etc. So, I had one problem with Unifi 8.3. Excuse me, 3.8. It's not 8.3, it's 3.8. I had one problem with Unifi Video 3.8 where I plugged in a G3 camera and it detected it and attempted to upgrade that camera to the latest firmware, and then the camera just never came back. I had to, this is actually just last week, I had to take that camera, factory default it, log into the camera, manually downgrade the firmware to the 3.7 version of firmware, and then plug it back in, and then it worked the second time. So, yeah. That's what I would have to say about that. So if that's what you're referring to, that yes, I did see that problem. What's the difference between stable SNG FreePBX 64-bit and FreePBX? They're the same. So FreePBX, so the SNG 7 version of FreePBX is FreePBX version 14. It's called SNG 7 because it is a forked version of CentOS 7 that Sangoma made their own. So SNG is Sangoma, 7 is for CentOS 7. So they took CentOS 7, they basically made it their own flavor of CentOS called Sangoma version 7 or something. I have not played around with it too much. I'm looking to install battery-operated Wi-Fi cameras deep in the woods. What Ubiquiti products do you recommend? I mean, go watch my solar video. I mean, you could probably use whichever one you want. Really, the G3 is probably, probably fine. Why did Ubiquiti move? I don't know. You'd have to ask Ubiquiti. If your license already expired on that server, can you install a new server and restore the ID and the license would activate again? Yes, you can. Or do I have to buy the license again? You do not have to re-buy the license. In FreePBX, your commercial modules are tied to your deployment ID, and when you first install FreePBX, you have the option of creating a new deployment ID or utilizing an old deployment ID. And if you use an old deployment ID, your licenses will come along with it. Is there any problem daisy chaining Unifi switches? No. There's not really a problem daisy chaining Unifi switches. You want to try to avoid daisy chaining switches as much as possible. So you want to, I know there's situations where you have to do that, but your switching infrastructure should, in the best practice, be as flat as possible. But, I know that that's not always possible. All right, guys. Well, it's 1:10 p.m. I am going to give this another 5 minutes, and then we are going to close down this live stream. Before we get there, I do want to thank everyone for joining the live stream. How many people are still watching this thing? 182 people still watching. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. I appreciate everyone. I appreciate anyone who buys stuff through my Amazon links especially, and I appreciate all of my Crosstalk Solutions customers in either the Ubiquiti or FreePBX side of the company especially as well. So thank you guys so much. I will answer a few more questions. Would you ever recommend Unifi VoIP? I would not. Let's see. Can you loop Unifi switches on the SFP ports? I think I tried it and it gave me issues. I don't know. I mean, so there are like STP, there's stuff that should prevent problems when you have looped switches with that spanning tree protocol, but it should work, but you want to try to avoid doing that. Are you in the Ubiquiti Discord? I am not. Just came to say hi. Hi. Hi, Eugene. Welcome. One of these days, I think I'm going to have to put a big like map of the world behind me, and then we're going to put little pins in where everyone's you know, talking to me from. I would love to do that one day, because it always astounds me that you guys are watching from all over the world. I love it. It's time for Ubiquiti to integrate their phones with FreePBX or PBExact. Yes, I would agree with you. Poland says hello. I am also of Polish descent, so I talked about being of Scottish descent earlier. I am also of Polish descent. My grandfather on my mother's side was from Poland. Oh, look at that. Belgian, Saudi, West Virginia, Netherlands. I get a lot of people from the Netherlands following my channel for some reason. Are Sangoma phones the only ones you can get a deal on? Well, kind of. I mean, Sangoma phones are the only ones that I can get free shipping on. So that's why I don't have any other types of phones on my webpage. Can you give me an example of why you use a WISP? Why do you use a wireless ISP? Well, there are places in the world where you can't get decent internet, and therefore wireless might be your only option for high-speed internet. Thanks for streaming. Love your videos. Thank you, Lucal2005. Appreciate that. Also Netherlands, Denmark. I would love to go to both the Netherlands and Denmark at some day. And Switzerland. I'd love to go to Switzerland too. I've only ever been to Europe once, and I only was in the London area. Hi, Chris. I own my own business called Long Point Computer Solutions, and I want to know what Ubiquiti router with VPN to use to connect multiple sites together. Well, I would recommend getting, start with the USG, and it's probably easiest to connect sites together with the USG. But USG or EdgeRouter both work fine for VPN. I've done both. How many viewers from India? I really don't know. Syracuse. I was just in Syracuse earlier this year. When was I in Syracuse? I think it was like April or May. I was in Syracuse. My wife has family up in that area, and we flew into Syracuse and then drove down to Homer, New York, a little small town near Cortland, New York. Well, and also just to remind you guys, if you will happen to be in Las Vegas, not next week, but the week after, whether you're attending Wispapalooza or not, let me know. We would like to potentially do a meetup if possible. And when I say meetup, it's going to be very informal. It will be Willie Howe and myself basically meeting each other in person for the first time, and probably sitting down to dinner and drinks or something like that, hanging out at a swanky Las Vegas lounge and getting a little shit-faced. That's what we're talking about as far as meetups go. Willie will have his wife with him on the trip, so he probably won't get nearly as shit-faced as I will, but it will still be fun. You can come down and meet us and talk to us. And so if you're going to be in Vegas, let's see. This is going to be the 11th and 12th of October that we will be out there. And also, if you guys are at Astrakhan next week in Orlando and you happen to see me walking around, please come up and say hi. I'd love to meet you guys. And oh, I am alone Thursday. Oh, there you go, Willie. See, I was jabbing at you, but I didn't know that you were still watching the live stream. So. Inspired by your videos, I just bought Unifi set with USG. I was surprised that there's no VoIP port. Now they labeled it as WAN 2 LAN 2. I think it's labeled WAN 2 LAN 2, but I don't believe they have the LAN 2 functionality there yet. I think it's getting there. So anyways. All right, guys, I am going to call it quits here. Again, thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I can feel my voice starting to deteriorate, so I think it's time to call it quits. And again, if you guys missed any part of this live stream, it will be uploaded to YouTube. It takes, I think, about an hour for it to process and then actually show up in my feed, but it will be on YouTube later. Thank you all for participating. Thank you all for your questions. And most importantly, thank you all for being subscribers and fans of Crosstalk Solutions. I absolutely, truly appreciate it. And yeah, I don't know how many videos I'll get out in the next 2 weeks, being that I'm traveling, but I will try to do what I can. And if I don't put any videos out in the next 2 weeks, I will see you guys back online in about 3 weeks. Okay, thanks so much, guys. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you later.